Hello everybody, thank you for joining today's Bringing Museums to the Home digital workshop session. For those that have joined this programme of online sessions for the first time today, my name's Anne-Marie Reid and I work for Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and I currently oversee HI's involvement in the Capito European Interreg North Sea Region Cultural Heritage Project. So Capito, it stands for Culture Power to Inspire Development in Rural Areas, and it's through the Capito project that HI has been able to collaborate with the University of St Andrews to facilitate a programme of digital heritage activities across the Highlands and Islands region. And it's also through Capito that we've been able just to draw on the skills and expertise of St Andrews on the topic of digital heritage to facilitate this programme of digital heritage workshop sessions. So today's workshop session, I think we're now workshop 6, which is on virtual reality. And today's session is going to look at how to get started making a digital reconstruction. And it will discuss how to balance authenticity with creating an experience. And it will look at different ways that virtual and augmented reality can be used. And it will then be followed by a digital reconstruction showcase. So I will now pass you over to Professor Alan Miller and Catherine Ann Cassidy at the university, who will facilitate today's session. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Very much for that introduction, and also thank you very much for everybody for coming along to this, and in particular thank you to about some of the virtual reality work that we did jointly in North Uist, and also for Skota Gunnarsson, who is worked with us in Iceland, and also to Nicola from Expo North, who's going to also be able to talk to us a bit about some of her experiences and expertise. So that is great. And so first of all, today's session is on virtual reality. And we've got a bit of a problem with this because we got to like 200 slides and then decided, well, that's probably too many. So we've had to cut it down a bit. And I think that one of the things that we're looking at doing is doing some more workshops after the Great Expo North Conference, which is going to be the weekend after next. I'm right about that, aren't I, on the Expo North Conference?
Wednesday and Thursday, a week tomorrow.
Okay, so it's a week tomorrow. Wednesday and Thursday, a week tomorrow. So that's definitely something. I don't know about everybody else, but I've got that highlighted in my calendar, and so I hope that you all have as well, and will enjoy that. But we're going to do some more workshops after that, another series or some add-on workshops to this, partly because of all the questions that have come up during these sessions, and also because we haven't managed to do all of the material that we would like to do. Every time we tackle a topic, and the more we think about it, the more we think about putting in. So it would be really great to get any suggestions. We've got some ideas, but it would be great to get suggestions from you guys about what you'd like to see happening after the Expo North Conference. Virtual reality. So I suppose that, moving the slide on, that we can think about the first question to answer or to ask is, so what is virtual reality? And there's lots of ways of going about defining it, but it's a representation of reality that we can engage with and that we can interact with, and it's kind of holistic. So the virtual reality exists in its own self and in its own right, and you can engage with that. That contrasts to augmented reality, where in augmented reality what we're doing is we've got some sort of image or some sort of representation of the real world. It may be the real world itself, and we're putting digital effects on top of that in order to in order to augment it. So with virtual reality, we're creating our own realities and enabling people to interact with them and to engage with them. And that means that the virtual realities that we can have can be about the past, they can be about the future, they can be us just imagining different realities and coming up with ways of representing them. The reason why I became interested in, and I think one of the great strengths of thinking about virtual realities and using computers to represent virtual realities, is that being a lecturer at St Andrews University, I'm involved in the education business, and I think that everybody who's involved with museums and heritage also is, to one extent or to the other. And one of the things that I believe, and I think it's found through experience, is that people learn well when they experience things. That if you're actively involved in something, the learning process is a richer one than if you're simply reading about it. But the problem is, or the challenge is that there are some things that we can't experience. We can experience a lot of things. I can experience going out into my garden. I can experience walking around London. I can experience walking around a castle. I can experience going over an archaeological site. But I can't experience what it's like to walk around London or Edinburgh in the 14th century. I can't experience what it's like to walk on the moon. I can't experience what it's like, or maybe I could briefly experience what it's like to stand on the edge of a volcano. So there are lots of things, there are lots of barriers to us experiencing things, whether it be time, space, or cost. And virtual reality enables us to overcome those barriers. So experiential learning gives a higher level of learning, but what we can experience is limited, and the digital can extend that. So moving on. Briefly. Okay, so this is going back to the 1960s, and this is the first virtual reality headset that was made, hanging from the wall. We can see, moving on, that we've moved on from that. So this is a view of St Andrews Cathedral, and this is my ex-student, Adiola Fabola, with a headset, looking into the past, seeing a digital model of St Andrews Cathedral as he moves around the real St Andrews Cathedral. And these are two children from North Uist engaging with a digital reconstruction of St Kilda, I believe. So they're having fun there. So then there again, moving on. And this shows that, virtual reality, I think Nicola was saying that one of the things about VR is that people think it's all about the youth of today and engaging new audiences. And to an extent it is. It's great to offer heritage so that people can engage using the digital literacies that they've developed themselves, perhaps playing games and the like. But it's not just for the young, it's also for the more established, as that shows. And can lead to great intergenerational things, intergenerational engagement. And, so one of the things I think that is one of the big barriers, or has been one of the big barriers, is that, when you go into a museum, or when you engage over the internet with heritage, you don't want to have to go through a whole process of learning how to do it, right? You want to be able to walk up and use, or switch on and use. You want to be able to get to the content quickly. And I think one of the great things that's happened over the last 10 years is that there is so much digital literacies. This is just an image of some toddlers playing with a tablet. But there's the story of seeing somebody with seeing a 2-year-old with a magazine trying to swipe the pages, so these digital literacies exist, and go on. So, okay, next. Thank you very much. And this is the other thing. Sorry to impose a graph on you. Well, this is a graph going upwards. It shows something that's called Moore's law. And the idea behind Moore's law is that every year, the amount of stuff that we can get on a specified amount of silicon increases. So this means that every year, you know, as we know, the capabilities of our mobile phones, the capabilities of our computers, you know, at the same price point increase. And so we are kind of at the beginning of virtual reality, and we can expect for that to become more so, more accessible, more powerful. Next, please. Yeah, so we're at this kind of era. These are old mobile phones from the 90s. Look as clunky as some of the headsets that we have around us at the moment. But we can expect for our headsets to become smaller, slimmer, less obtrusive, and so on as time goes on. Next, please. And these are just some examples of different sorts of VR. So I don't know if anybody's watched Star Trek, but this is a holodeck. The idea is you can walk in and you're completely surrounded by an environment, and you really can't tell the difference between that environment and reality. And that's kind of the gold status of where we want to get to with virtual reality. We want it to be imperceptible that it's real and virtual. And Ian M. Banks' Surface Detail, I don't want to spend time on it, but it's a great book about virtual reality, and it's well worth having a read. So if we go on to the next slide. Yeah, so this has got a video. It's worth just having a look at it. It was a spoof video by Google. There's sound involved with it, I think. I can't hear the sound.
Was to make something feel real. And so this is the first headset for actual reality.
Yeah, I can hear you
perfectly.
360 audio. Perfect 360 audio. So we get the point being that you know, virtual reality is never going to be as good as actual reality, which is an important one, because people are always, one of the worries is that, you know, if we do a VR thing and we do a reconstruction, then maybe it's going to be poor. Maybe it's going to turn people away rather than push people forward. So when we're looking at what we can do now, we can do a lot now. Computer games, computer game engines, means that whereas even 5 years ago, you know, when we were talking about doing digital reconstructions and creating VR environments, we were talking about small areas. We were talking about buildings, sometimes big buildings, but buildings nonetheless. Now we can look at 100 square miles, which means that we can get the whole landscape, we can get a whole context. Virtual reality can be much bigger, you know, and you walking through a virtual reality environment, it can take you ages, you know, so we have to think about things like that. How do we move from place to place? So one of the ways in which virtual reality works, and one of the ways in which people are most familiar with virtual reality, is within the gaming environment. I don't want to spend too long about that, but there's interesting things happening with gaming and heritage, and have been for a while. So that there's kind of three sort of games that are of interest: Total War series, Assassin's Creed, and Minecraft, all enable engagement with heritage. And moving on. Yeah. So Total War, if we just flick through these really quickly. One of the things you can do is you can replay the Battle of Bannockburn. This is actually old. This is from almost 10 years ago. Do we have a look at the video? Maybe not. So yeah, so we can use computer games to refight battles and to play around in landscapes and the like. So that's this is Robert the Bruce's army. Maybe limitations on the historical accuracy, and so moving on. That we're not going to watch the 45 minutes of the battle, unfortunately. But these are online on YouTube, and watching other people playing computer games is starting to become a big thing. This is a Roman one. This is the Battle of Zana. This is quite exciting. And there's a video. This is part of the Time Commander, so it's a TV program, and you've got teams of people. There you go. You've got a team of people controlling and refighting the battle. It's engaging. It's exciting. It brings people into engagement with heritage. Yep. So that's enough of that, I think. Again. That's only 2 minutes 36 seconds, but you can rewatch the whole battle. And Assassin's Creed, one of the things Assassin's Creed did very kindly during the lockdown was to open up tours for themselves. So we have these things. Yep, next. But there's issue with computer games. Yep, moving on. First of all, it could take a long time to learn to play the computer game. Secondly, you know, they're not about our heritage. They're about, you know, big things, Battle of Bannockburn or whatever, but they're not about the castle down the road. They're not about what's happening next door. They're not about a specific museum. If we want things to be, I mean, occasionally they are, but if we want generally things to be like that, then we have to make them ourselves. And so if we're going to do that, there's kind of like three things I wanted to touch on. One is making a landscape to situate the heritage in. Two is creating models to put those in, to put within the landscape. And three is adding interpretation to that. So we'll look at those three things, and then we'll look a bit at game engines, a bit at virtual reality, exhibits and exhibitions, some examples, and then some case studies. Well, I think Ian's going to talk to us a little bit about landscapes.
Yes, so the first thing to do when you are trying to create a landscape in a virtual environment, of course, is to work out where your environment is focused around, and then you have to work out what data is available for that. So in Britain, Ordnance Survey data is available for the whole of Britain. It's quite good quality. There's also sometimes floodplain data that's been captured, and it is possible for the project of specific data captured. So then you'd acquire the data for the area you want. In this case, on a map, we've drawn out the area for the total area of the data. So often you can go for quite large areas, and then you probably also want to work out what the focus of the data is. So in this case, the white circle. The white square, sorry, is where we could be focusing on. Often when you get data, it would come as tiles, so you need to combine it. In this case, we're using QGIS to combine all the tiles into a single file, usually a GeoTIFF.
So, Ian, could you just say what QGIS is?
Oh, sorry, that's a piece of GIS software. So it's for working with geospatial data. It can do many things. In this case, we'd just be combining data, also drawing on maps and generating maps of things.
And it's free. I think it's freely available, isn't it? These
QGIS is
systems.
Yeah, it's an open source GIS software. There's many other GIS softwares. Most of them are not free. Well, there's a few other GIS softwares. They're all quite big pieces of software, so people usually stick with the one they're familiar with. And then one of the things we do when we're doing landscapes is we print out a map. Well, don't print out. We generate an image of a map that goes over the terrain. So in this case, we'll be showing the map that covers the black area on the previous one. So that's the big map, and then We'd also often if we're going to do a small area, we'd also generate a map for the small area. And if you're doing historical reconstructions, a good thing to do is get any plans or maps of the local area, preferably pre-geolocated, but if they aren't, then you can use existing landscape parts of the landscape to match them up with the thing. QGIS software has a geospatialized plugin, I think that's what it's called, which allows you to pick points that are common to the thing you want to geolocate and a real map, and then it'll reproject the thing to fit on the real world, and then you can put that onto the map. So in this case, once you've got your terrain data, you want to put it through something to put it into a format that can be used by the virtual environment. In this case, we'd be using Unreal Engine. So we're putting it through World Machine, which unfortunately is not free software, and converting it into RAW16 or 16-bit PNG file, which you can then load into Unreal Engine. So here we are in this slide. That's just the beginning of loading the RAW16 file into Unreal Engine. You see the wireframe of the model. One of the important things to know is that you need to calculate the difference between the size of the terrain as it would come into Unreal Engine and the real size of the terrain, and then you have to adjust the size, which should start at 100, and adjust it to be the correct size so that the Unreal Engine meters match up with the real world meters. One thing that we do is have two layers, as I showed before, and you can create a mask so you can put a hole in the large area. So you can have a large terrain that you can see the hills and all the surrounding terrain, and then you have a high resolution bit of terrain with a high resolution map on it for where you're actually doing your reconstruction, assuming you're doing a reconstruction that's located in a single area. So here you can see an example of the two levels of terrain imported, and the white stuff is actually on plan for this for the thing that's to be reconstructed here, which is a basin scapa floor, I believe. Right. I think you're going to talk about modeling there.
Okay, so that's the first phase of creating a virtual reality environment, and we'll supply a more detailed roadmap of how to do that. But I think the take-home thing here is that by making use of pre-existing survey data, we can lay landscapes down of hundreds of square miles, which can be great for providing context for reconstructions, and can also mean that we can model the way landscapes were in the past, how they're likely to be in the future, all of those sorts of things. So looking forward then to talk about the modeling process. So the next phase really is to be able to populate that landscape with digital artifacts, with buildings, with plants, if we can move on, with fauna, and the like. So there's different ways in which we can do this. So the first is we can make models through a modeling program. We can make them through digitization. We can download from a library, from a free library, open source or the like. So if we're going to make them through modeling, then we need some software to do that. And so the first software that we're just looking at is called Blender. So this is a free, Blender is a free modeling program. The second, this we're looking at here is 3ds. We're looking at it is 3ds Max. So 3ds Max is a commercial program. It's free if you've got an education license, and is powerful. And then the next one that just flicked up there was SketchUp. So SketchUp is again is a freely available software for doing 3D models. And I think the first thing to say really is that there's nothing really to be frightened of here. That making a 3D model, you know, is very similar to using programs such as Paint, where you're putting in squares. Instead of working with squares and circles, you're working with cubes and rectangles and spheres. And so you can take these building blocks and very quickly you can start to develop houses and models and the like. So moving on. Yeah, so that the modeling process of making those shapes, and then once you've made the shapes, then we can add textures to the shapes. So textures essentially are photographs which can add a level of detail. And what we do then is, once we've created those models, we can then export them from the modeling program and import them into the game engine. The second way that we can make models is by digitizing existing artifacts, and we're going to have examples of that later on. So yeah, moving on to the next slide. So that's great, and so so we've got a landscape, we've got modeling, and so the third thing we need to think about then is interpretation. So we don't just want it to be a process of going into a model in a game engine and walking around. We also want for there to be interactions. And when we're thinking about that, we're thinking about it on 3 levels. So the first level that we think about it on is when you go into a scene, you want to have some context. You want some sort of name, some sort of description. So that's the first thing that we try to do is that when you go into a scene in a model, you have some context which tells you about where you are and what you're doing. The second is that when you're in that scene, you want to have ways of interacting with it. And there's lots of different ways. The simplest thing is putting up information points, as we've done here with a virtual reality 360 exhibit using a mobile app, and you've got information points. Click on an information points for Edinburgh 1544, and here you get detail of the Collegiate Church of St Mary, also known as the Kirk of the Field, comes up. And the third way of doing interaction is by introducing animations. So animations take these things to a whole new level. So we can animate characters, we can animate animals, we can animate the grass and so on, and then we can interact with these animals through conversations and the like. So that's the third element, is the interpretation. So then moving on, I think we're then going to talk about game engines. So a game engine really is where it all comes together, is where it's all brought together. There's lots of different game engines, as we'll soon see, hopefully. Yeah, so a game engine is this. Go back, please. So a game engine is the software that the game engine is a software that provides game creators with the features to build games quickly and efficiently. So we have these game engines. What we're wanting to do here is to use gaming technology in order to create virtual reality exhibits and exhibitions. This is good because there's a lot of support for working with these game engines that are developed by the companies that are pushing them, and it enables us to work with graphics, audio, networking, physics, making things move and drop to the ground and stuff like that. Provide a graphical user interface, and also have some scripting and programming so we can put in the interaction. So if we're going on to what is a game engine, there's different examples of them, and we just skip through some of them. Yep, that's great. So there you go. That's Wikipedia. There's a whole list of them. Minecraft is great, and you can just pick up Minecraft and start making digital models in it. You can take it into a classroom, and you can get the kids to do it. So once you've actually got the information in terms of the size and shape and so on of things, and Minecraft can be used to make 3D models, and it's very inclusive. It's free and it's open source and it's a quick start. So then the next one to look at is coming up soon. Oh, Second Life. It's kind of blast from the past. We started off doing 3D modeling in Second Life. It's not really got the, and it's great if you want to go in and if you want to start, but it can get expensive buying pieces of land and stuff like that to keep your models going on. So, but again, you can just log in and away you go. Open Simulator is an open source version of that we used a lot to make reconstructions of St Andrews Cathedral and St Kilda and a whole range of different places. And this is open and free, but it does take a bit to get it up and running. You need to be a bit, I think you need to be a little bit geeky to do this. Okay, so then moving on to the next one. Oh, this is an example of a reconstruction that we did in OpenSim. Moving on. Unity. Unity is a great accessible platform for making 3D models. And if you're a small organization or an individual, you can get access to most of the features for free. And it's a good way of getting started in the world of 3D modeling. And you can make in this buildings and representations, you know, in a matter of weeks, that will be fair representations of the objects that you're looking at and you're trying to work with. However, it is, it is also very good in cross-platform. So if you're wanting to make a model and you want it to go across a whole range of models, then it's great for that. Unreal Engine is a full-blown professional game engine that you can make full-blown professional games with. So it's great in terms of scale, it's great in terms of detail. Moving on a little bit. And we've seen examples of it. And here's a good place to get started. You can go to this place, https://docs.unrealengine.com. You can download it, it's completely free. It tells you the sort of computer that you need. You need 8 gigabits of RAM, Windows 7 or 8, quad-core Intel or AMD, and DirectX 11 compatible graphics cards. So pretty much any computer that's been bought in the last 2 to 3 years that has its own graphics card will do. And any computer that's been bought in the last 2 to 3 years, if you buy a graphics card to put it into it, it will probably do as well. But to be fair, it does appreciate you spending money on it. So it does appreciate you having lots of memory, having the fastest graphics card that you can get, and so on. So it can get a bit sluggish. Certainly if you want to make huge representations, then you want to get a powerful computer to do so. But in terms of getting started and working with it, then it's a great thing to do. But also Unreal Engine has a great set of tutorials. So you can just follow the tutorials. For example, getting started with Unreal 4, in a couple of hours, it will get you going. And then you can just follow these tutorials for a day, a week or whatever. And you really will then be in a position to start making stuff that is of value. So, yeah. So I think, and you can import assets into it, which is great as well. Moving on. I think I'm really wanting to hand over to you, Catherine. Yep, I am. So, and Catherine's going to talk about some examples of exhibits and exhibitions that can be made using this technology.
Sure. Well, I think you were going to do these slides, but I can certainly talk on them, I guess. So kind of like reasons why, and Alan touched on this a bit, of places that you can't go anymore, or you can't go anywhere because of time, of distance, of setting. So you have to think too, as you're creating, if you create your reconstruction or your place in VR, what is going to be your visit? What is going to be the experience, and how are you going to get people through? So it's thinking about what the visitor is going to experience. So it's almost like designing, like you were designing an exhibit in the real world or in your museum, but doing it virtually. So if you could go next, Ian. Thank you. Oh, I pinned my video. I did not want to do that. Hold on 1 second. Unpinned.
I'm sorry, Catherine. I didn't. I mean,
you jumped in a little too early.
Do you want me to keep going? I can keep going if you like.
It's okay. I don't know what's happened. I don't see the screen anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, if Ian, I'll carry on talking, and if you can just scooch things on, and Catherine, just interrupt me when you're ready to go. So I think that the point of this slide is that okay, so we can make these models, we can make virtual reality reconstructions, but we can then use these in lots of different ways. So we can have different sorts of virtual reality applications, and not limited to the categorizations that I've put up here, but we can just make straightforward 3D models that you can explore. We can do it at kind of like virtual time travel, and I think that it would be great actually to have a session that is kind of completely on virtual time travel, but where you go back into the past and engage with the past. Also, we can use virtual reality as a kind of dual reality system. So when we're out and about, we can see what's in the real world, and we can see what's in the virtual world, and we can make these collaborations with it. And then we can also have virtual visits, so that we can, and this can be great in terms of letting people see what things are like, and therefore decide whether they wanted to visit or not. So if we then just keep going, Ian, or has the slides stopped complete? No, it was great. And we keep going, that's great. So we're looking at different sorts of applications. So here we have immersive 3D applications. This is a map of the Lords of the Isles, which is a 15th century reconstruction of Finlagan, and it highlights the different places that you can go and see on this map. So this is the sort of dual reality experience. So the idea is to use this when you're visiting the island. But of course, when you're sat on your sofa at home, you can do the same thing, and you can get the same effect. Moving on. So yeah, and this is the Google Cardboard thing with two eyes, one for the left eye, one for the right eye. And this is showing a market in Edinburgh in 1544, giving you a virtual reality experience. And then the next is...
So I was going to talk on this. But
okay.
Okay, I can see the screen again. I clicked something and I lost the screen for a second, so I'm okay now. I shouldn't touch anything. We're all computer scientists. I shouldn't touch anything. So talking about, and we kind of touched on this a few sessions ago about different social media platforms, that social archiving platforms that you can have. We were talking about the about real world taking virtual tours and photospheres and how to do that, and then 3D models and different things like that. But you can also do that with your virtual reconstructions that are within your VR settings. So go ahead next, Ian. Thanks. So just like in the real, you can have the virtual, but a virtual tour. So this is just an example of what that can look like on RoundMe. This is of Screwed Cluster, which Skoda, I'll talk to it in a little bit, and in just a second, and she can talk to it a little bit as well. But just as an example of using different platforms online to be able to get your content out as well. Next, Ian.
I think that's actually great, because I mean, it's because you can, in the virtual environment, you can like take photographs like you would do in the real world. So all of that stuff that we talked about with social media, with galleries and all of that stuff, it just applies to what you can do with the digital reconstruction.
Once it's once it's media, once it's created, then within, especially within a game engine, you can then take photographs, take 360s, take 360 video, take video, track a video all throughout your world. And then you can just keep on creating more content from the content you've originally created. So then this is showing St Kilda. We've actually done, this is a updated version, and Mary will talk about it a little bit later, but this is just demonstrating then the virtual reconstruction, but in just a video kind of storyboard format of just going through and telling a story within the framing of just in a video, as another example of then what you can do with the content from within. It doesn't have to be a VR headset. So, okay, let's go next, because we can come back to it when...
And this is a lot higher resolution when you're outside of Zoom, when you're just watching it straight on YouTube or in a museum or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, what we do think of when we say VR is the VR headset. VR just means, like Alan said, putting yourself into an alternate reality. It doesn't mean, and that can be within a larger space as well. I'm not going to mention that earlier, but it also can mean the headset. So next, Ian. Yep. So so that can then mean an installation where you put the headset on and explore, and that's what this is being demonstrated at the Tom and Toole Glenlivet Discovery Center, and I'm going to talk about that in my case study as well. So next. Cool. Okay, so now I'll get into the case studies a little bit more, just to be able to show examples of then different kinds of interactivity within them as well, and how all that material went into creating it as historically accurate as possible. We really can't say 100% because history is actually always changing our interpretation of it. So just the first one, go ahead next, Ian, is the Morden Hill Fort, which was part of, which was a Tay Landscape Partnership project, but it was done for the temporary exhibition called Pix and Pixels in the Perth Museum, an art gallery located in Perth down here. And
just to interrupt, Perth and Kinross Heritage Trust as well.
Yes.
So, funded it effectively, I think, through the KLP thing.
So this video, I chose it because in just a second you'll see it's kind of telling you about the excavations that went on at Morden and how that research and the findings went into the building of our reconstruction, and it's going to have a bit of a layering to show you how it was done. So, and this was a Pictish hill fort. It's looking out onto the Tay, and here you can see how it's recreated. And you can see some lights out in the hills farther, and that was how we indicated for the exhibition other evidence of hill forts. So, and here you can see, as Ian said, about how we can layer. We've layered the map, the archaeological map on top, and then built the building up from it.
I think it's amazing, just the size of the landscape that we can...
Yes, this landscape was very large. Do you remember how large it was, Ian? Off the top of your head?
No, I don't remember specifically. I think it might have been 32 kilometers square, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Didn't know if you knew that off the top of your head. So if you go next, Ian, so this was in an exhibition. It was a few different spots in the exhibition, but the main one, which was Morden, was at the end of the exhibition hall being projected, and you could walk up and with an Xbox controller move around just in photospheres. It wasn't full like interactive environment, but it was photospheres. And then there was another place that you could another location with that same kind of interactivity. And then we had another location and then if you go next, Ian, for virtual reality headset. And this was kind of a very early for us exhibit with 3D models as well, kind of in place with photospheres. And so it was based on research a bit. And this was 2017, 2018, I'm not sure. Okay, go ahead next. So the illicit still experience, go ahead, Ian, was the Tomatul and Glenlivet Discovery Center. Go ahead, next one. So then that was part of the Tomatul Glenlivet Landscape Partnership. It was Heritage Lottery Funds, Tomatul Glenlivet Development Trust as well, because they were doing a full refurbishment on the Discovery Center. So it reopened in 2018. And one of the things that they wanted to talk about and highlight was the area of Ballinloan, and next Ian, which is a lost settlement, but was was integral to their history, and especially with the illicit whiskey trade in that area, which obviously it's known very well for its legitimate whiskey trade today, but wanted to highlight then the archaeological findings, historical knowledge, and building the valley essentially that it's in, and reconstructing then how they would needed to create whiskey, hiding it in the landscape. So it shows a little bit of the reconstruction, but also then the menu. It was different elements of it, and you can find it on Round Me. So when we have this PowerPoint, you can go through and see the settlement of it. But it had a guided tour where you would go to different points or to the different reconstructions. And it also had real, so if you go next, Ian. So we also did real, oh, sorry. So so this is the whiskey being hidden on, like, under a cliff by a river. So, you know, they could do it in secret. Next, Ian. But we also had real photospheres. So there's a real photosphere tour of the area. And so Glenlivet had to be included as well. And that's, go ahead, next, Ian. And that is a permanent exhibition that's within the Discovery Center. And interactivity is with the headset and with just a little joystick to go through. And there's interpretation as you look around, because it's full 360, look around, you hit hotspots, so then the text pops up at you. So then you can learn through the photosphere or through the environment, the story that's being meant to be told. Okay, next, Ian. So, First Minister seen it, so that's pretty cool. But when they opened, and next, Ian. Okay, yeah, so it's had really great results, and I think they've had fabulous feedback from it, and so it's so that's an example. So Finn Lagan is, we mentioned it earlier, it's also an installed VR exhibition, but the difference with that is that it also has the remote access with the mobile app. So you can either be on the island, go ahead, next, Ian, and actually be geolocated and being shown on the map where you're standing, and pull up the information, pull up the photosphere as you're standing there, or you can be sitting on your couch and interacting with it as well. And then it helps too is their visitor center isn't open all year round. You can go and walk down to the island, so it's still a layer of engagement they can have all year round without sacrificing that time that they're closed for the season. And I'm not our historian on the team, so I can't really say a lot about the history, but it is the Lord of the Isles. I'm sure most of you could probably add more, but I had multiple buildings on in the reconstruction, as you can see, then the layering of content of material within within the reconstruction makes it more realistic. So actually, as opposed to just buildings with walls and that's it, you know, having the fire in the fireplace and food on the table and banners hanging and the wind moving, you know, things to make it more lifelike and real. Okay, we can go next, Ian. Great, so then here's the mobile app menu system of how you navigate around it. So you can be sitting just at home and go through each of the locations, or if you're actually on the island and have your GPS turned on, it'll show you where you are in relative to where you are in the map. Okay, next. Okay, so last one, Scruta Cluster is also an installed VR exhibition. But what's interesting with this one is that we've placed back 3D models that were scanned or photogrammetized. And then also there is a interactive app that's a bit of research development within the project that where you could do a bit more with the models. Go ahead next, Ian. So this image shows, so it's a reconstruction of a monastery in Eastern Iceland, and Skoda, pop in anytime you want to say something about it. But here is here are two objects that were scanned, well, or photogrammetrized, placed back into the original context. And those are the two statues, St. Barbara in front of us and Mary at the back. But within the Oculus Go app, then you can pick up and manipulate and also have another layer of interpretation of the models. So once you are standing near it and you can see that information bubble, you can click it and then move the model around and then have a layer of interpretation. Okay, next, Ian. And with this, the whole valley area as well, it's a very large landscape that's been reconstructed, and then with the monastery, because the whole point, which I know Skoda has mentioned in other talks and mentioned, is the whole area. It's not just where the monastery is, it's, you know, connecting it past and up and over the glacier. And there's more work that we're even doing with that, but that the landscape and the environment is really very important to the model as well.
I can just add, we use this quite often. Just, it takes me at least half an hour to explain to people how the building was, but having them putting the goggles on, it takes a few minutes to live it. And also the talking points, like Alan was talking about, explaining with pictures, not just words. And people always come out of the experience and they talk about, oh, the walls were this thick and I didn't realize that the ceiling would be this low. But also when they explore the space, because the St Andrews team, Catherine showed you the two statues earlier, but there are Easter eggs all around. So if you really explore the space, you can find more items that are from the excavation. So this is all put in place as completely as close to the information that we have right now. And it works for everyone. Doesn't matter how old they are. Everyone loves this. Yeah.
Well, I think you're right. It gives them, especially since how you're set up is that your museum, you know, the site is down the hill a bit, and you can't, where the VR exhibit is, you can't see. You might have walked around it before, you might have seen it before, but you might not, you don't really get the sense of it until you're actually in it, in the interactive, and can feel, yeah, like the low ceilings and, you know, our interpretation of how dark it is, or, you know, what it would have been like, but livable. Yeah. Which is, just I think, hard from the, just the site how it is today.
Yeah, just missing the smells. That's pretty much the only thing missing.
Next.
But yeah, it's set in another building, so it's not like you can put the goggles on and look out the window. You have to go to down a few hundred meters to see the original site to be able to experience it. But yeah, and we set it up. They've been through a couple of different setups in the case studies. Our setup is that it's in a special room. There's a large screen, so I can have up to 20 people, 20, 30 people even, watch it at the same time, and then just one person wearing goggles and controlling where they are looking. Then we also have a separate machine where you can put the goggles on and you can, Dockers Go thingy, the new one, and there you can spin around and almost touch. People always reach out the hand to try to touch the statues. And then we also have the whole thing just on video. So if you don't feel up to experience the 3D, you can watch it on video. So you will not miss out anything. It's all about how people are willing to try and experience, pretty much.
Well, and that's something that we've done and that we feel is very important, is having both the opportunity for active and passive engagement, because then, you know, not everybody wants to put a headset on, or not everybody likes that feeling of being in the headset and walking around a little bit of vertigo. Or you just might have a large group where not everybody can have it at it, you know, you just get bored after a while. So being able to have a screen, and you've probably seen that in a few of them, that there's a screen to show, and duplicating what somebody is seeing in the headset, I think is very important to be able to engage and still reach the audiences that don't want to directly use the headset and engage that way.
Yeah, at least it was really important for us. Yeah.
So if you go next, Ian, I think there's just like a finisher slide, but I wanted to then let Mary from North US talk if she's there. Oh, you need to unmute yourself. Oh, no. If you say unmute.
I think, James, can you unmute?
There she goes.
Yes, came up. Just came up then.
Perfect. I don't know if you wanted to speak on some of the work that has been done with you guys, and Ian can pull up some of the examples if you have it.
Well, I think I have to mention two things. One is Norman, who has the vision at our museum, and I think made the first moves to working with you. And our very first venture was St Kilda. It's interesting to see your updated version of it. And we worked with two schools on the island, one Gaelic medium, one English medium. And they wanted to fit the work in with the curriculum. So the English medium school looked at health on St Kilda, which was their area of expertise. And with the other school, we looked at movement. And there's a special wren on St Kilda, which is bigger than all other wrens. So the children did a movement sequence looking at wrens and bigger birds, and they laugh at it now because it was in 2013 and they're grown up. But that was, I suppose, our input is to rely on St Andrews for the technology, but work with you on a model of learning for the children that enriches their experience, makes learning fun, and challenges them all at the same time. So if we move on to the 360 archaeology, our funding has come from HIGH, it's come for Gaelic Innovation, it's come from Heritage Lottery mostly, and we're very grateful for that funding as a voluntary organisation. we have a fantastic outreach team of artists, musicians who join in very readily, and ex-teachers and practicing teachers. So the teamwork is probably our success. And with the 360, I don't know if, Ian, have you got Dune and Stick here? I don't know if you can put any of that up.
Can you see what he's putting up right now, Mary? It's the North US 360 of it.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's Dune and Sticker, but it's an example of one of our archaeological sites with 360. Local musicians composed music for each of the photospheres to reflect the ambience of the place. And then local school children enacted folk tales or the actual historical legend belonging to the place. It was unfortunate that on the day when you came to, 2 days you came to film, they'd planned to narrate the stories bilingually, but to do pieces of elaborate movement actually in the site. But the weather meant that we couldn't do that. And so instead of their very vigorous movements, they had to pose for a series of stills, but they were endlessly adaptable. I think another part of the model of learning was to challenge them with adult research. They were all St Andrews University students in primary school, and they then looked up the different words, the difficult words, and condensed the information into a newscast where they dressed up as Radio Neolithic and Radio Bronze, and presented some short synopses in both languages of the timeline, really, from early hunter-gatherers through to medieval times. So I think all our exhibitions, World War I as well, have been totally enhanced by the work that's happened. Even our volunteers, some of whom are as old as me, have learned how to use Xboxes. Ian and Alan came and trained these grey heads in the use of Xboxes. And we got a volunteer award at the British Museum for that. So Ian was there on the day. So that's a quick run through, because I'm sure people want a break now.
Did you find the video, Ian, of this reconstruction by chance? Oh, there it goes.
Oh, yes. And this reconstruction was the highlight of the exhibition. I don't know if there's any sound with it, but the children sang, we researched music, and the children sang and played.
hori nyuhu hiri. China machas jarna vag bujanak shinku gluaset hukori nyuhu hiri. Hori nyu hiri hukela hori nyuhu hiri. Tukka graunis ut de gri, si utra merna stuagan, hukorinjo hiri, harinjo hiri, hukela, harinjo hiri. Hambata big cowboy, big hambata big cowboy. Hambata big cowboy, big scubberly scushola. Jaki and trolley and jolly, Bukia novi borstinch, nur noch shinrishani and kri, Gassi and Galtagas moran. Chila gain habura shin, no humalay.
So great.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Shouldn't I? So
Okay.
that's a fitting end.
I think that is a nice little ending to then go to our break.
Okay. I'd love to spend a session really going through the steps of making a model and doing that in a lot more detail. Maybe we can add that into what we do, because this I think is more sort of done sort of context and examples and roadmap type thing. But I don't know. Yeah, hi, Melanie. Good to see you.
Hello. Also, my name is actually Nicola, but for some reason, because my boss booked me on this, it just puts me into her Zoom. So hi, I'm Nicola from Mary Hill Borough Halls. This is not so much a question as an observation. I took part in a project last year that created a digital representation of Mary Hill Barracks, as was kind of 1890s. It was really cool. It was an awesome project. It came together really well, but one of the issues we had at the end of it is obviously part of the legacy of the project was being able to roll it out for kids to be able to explore the barracks, which is now a housing estate, and go around. It turned out that the security that is on Glasgow City Council computers, which is in all of their libraries, will not allow Minecraft to run. And that's maybe something that we didn't consider at the start of the project, to be perfectly honest. It was also a challenge for it to get into schools. They couldn't run it because of the security. So I guess I was just wanting to put that out there as a risk if you don't double check first.
Yeah,
it's difficult. It is difficult. I mean, particularly, it's something we've struggled with. I mean, we would sometimes turn up in schools with like a dozen computers in order to do like a workshop, because couldn't use any of their stuff. But I think that mobile phones provide a bit of a route that way. I think Minecraft would probably run on a mobile phone, and there are accessibility issues, but most kids would have access to a mobile phone, I think, that would run Minecraft. So there are maybe ways around the security things, but it is yeah. Well, it sounds like a great project.
Yeah, I mean, it was really great. The way we'd done it is that the housing estate was built on the old barracks in sort of 1960s, and we did a sort of combination of, we did an archaeological dig where they got to find some of the old foundations of some of the barracks buildings, and then they had to match that up with maps, and then they built what they thought it would look like, and we managed to recreate some of it from photographs. So it was a really great project for the kids that were directly involved with it, but just being able to kind of, for it to have any kind of longevity just wasn't really going to work, and it's kind of fizzled out now. Although I do hope eventually that we can install it in sort of local museum that people can come in and have a look.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do with to do this sort of high-tech digital reconstruction virtual reality thing. But then you can take a photograph of the model, you know, or make a video of the model, and that can sit on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook and things like that. And so, and I mean, even when, like, so we've done this for Perth, we did a digital reconstruction of Perth, and you know, we did some exhibits and stuff like that with it. But we made a movie, we made a short movie in world, kind of like fly through type thing that goes on for 2 minutes and 3 minutes. And then, like, at the start of the lockdown, I saw it. I thought, oh, I've seen that. Somebody, you know, it just popped up my. I saw it. Oh, we made that, and you know, it had 124,000 views. So somebody got a hold of it. Well, it was Perth City Centre Group or something like that. Got a hold of it, stuck it on the thing, and 124,000 people watched it. So I think that this is the thing about the sort of VR digital reconstruction things, is that it can be used in kind of like familiar media as well as the you know, as well as the gaming media, and that's maybe how most people would see it, as a photograph popping up on their feed, or as a video that they can watch.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Good idea.
Susan Webster, I think you're wanting to.
Yeah, hi. I'm interested in how this changes the visitor journey to a place, and whether you know of any work that's been done looking at that, because as a visitor to a remote part of Scotland, at the moment, people might look at guidebooks and maps in preparation to go. And it seems to me that this is another tool for people to study where they're going prior to visiting, and whether you had any evaluation of whether people are actually doing that when they're sofa surfing for planning their holidays or trips. And then I suppose the secondary question to that is, having created these digital models and got them out there, have you done any evaluation on people's experiences as a consequence of using them?
You've done some evaluation stuff, Catherine, I think.
Yeah, so the second one, we've definitely done a lot of evaluation on, because we're very interested in user reactions and how people use it, and if they like it, what they don't like about it. Is it easy to use? Is it hard to use? So in what that has led to for us, because we are a research group, is that each then next reconstruction or then exhibit or whatever that digital model is in, if it's a VR exhibit, let's say, that evaluation has led to the next iteration based on evaluation. So where we realized at one point, I can't remember what it was between, whether it was Tom and Tool and Screwclaster, I can't remember. One of them was people had, we had both a really open world explore area, and then we also had this very rigid photosphere tour. And people really liked both, but it was also like you would get completely lost in one of them, you know, because if kids are on it, kids love to just like shoot up to the sky or like go up to a cow's face. You know, they go everywhere except where you really want them to go if you kind of want to give them a guided tour. But then the opposite side of that, the other guided tour was very rigid. You couldn't go over and explore anything. So with the feedback that we did with evaluation, that led on to doing this kind of mix between the two, of having a guided tour, but you could then move within the guided tour, but then if you clicked whatever button was next, it would take you to the next highlighted spot, because we still wanted you to get the information that we wanted to present, but still had it open so you could explore and walk around, and then you would just, okay, I'm ready, and then you go to the next point. So, and then lots of positive feedback, but then also age range, you know, who's using it, what's being found as easy and accessible. I don't think we've done any research, and I'm not sure, Alan, you can say about if people have specifically used it to prepare for a trip, especially like now where we're all sitting at home and online and can look at things. But I think it makes the argument for having it accessible. So like Alan was just saying, is having it on other platforms other than just the virtual reality, like headset platform or something, or the gaming platform, having it as a video or having it as images, because then you can get it to more people, and it is much easier to then, you know, consume it, because it's in the same realm of all other media you're normal and used to seeing.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that, one of the things, I mean, in terms of the user journey, I think absolutely that's a great thing to think about. I think we mentioned it, but didn't go into it into a lot of detail. But just an anecdotal thing, we stuck, or CJ, one of my colleagues stuck some photospheres from North Uist onto Google Maps. You know, and they look back in a few months' time, and 200,000 people had looked at them, and I thought, wow, that's an amazing thing. And so we've done more of that as a result of that. So it's just putting things onto, because that's where people go to, you know, Google Street View, you go and have a look at Google Street View and look at what the place is like and so on. And actually reconstructions do really well on there as well. I think that, you know, there's a photo of St Andrews Cathedral that's got 100,000 views on it, and there's other ones, but that's the one that's got the biggest thing. So I think the user journey, you know, before, during, and after. I mean, in terms of sharing, making it easy for people to share representations is important as well, I think.
And I think just to add a wee bit to that, I've done some projects. I worked a bit with the Snow Roads project, and I know that working with destination management organisations and Visit Scotland are looking, when they go to expos and to tourism conferences, they are looking to take Google Cardboard glasses and things with them to give people those experiences to try and sell places, so more from a tourist point of view. And then tying in a bit more to heritage, down in Cornwall through the WAVE project down there, they are looking to build more immersive experiences for the museums and the coastal communities there, but again, to work with their tourism organisations to help build those economies and to help entice the visitors. So I think, as you said, there's some evidence that people are using it and accessing it online. I haven't done any specific research into how much they use it for planning their holidays, but I think they will do. And I think our tourism organisations are starting to look at that more and more. So working with them in partnership to let them know about your experiences and that that kind of access to your landscape and to your heritage will really help benefit the organisation.
Mary, I thought did you want to come in at some point? You're muted again though.
Okay, not technological. Our visitor numbers, footfall, the evaluations we've done, for the 360, the one we've just been talking about, doubled. So there's a lot of evidence that as part of an exhibition, the evaluation shows the additional impact it can have quite strongly in terms of visitor numbers. The St Kilda and the 360 has travelled a bit, and I hadn't thought of how it could be used for visitors. And we have a problem in North Uist in that we're slightly, well, I suppose most of the rest of the islands are Cinderella-ish as compared with Lewis, which tends to have the goodies a lot of the time. And so we were thinking of ways in which we could use this to attract more people. Sometimes they go to Barra and sometimes they go to Lewis, and perhaps the in-betweeny bits get left out. So it's certainly something we've put our heads to thinking about.
Thank you. Emily, I believe you were wanting to ask something.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe Alan and Catherine could speak a wee bit about your exhibition that you've put on with the virtual reality and any challenges you've had in managing these and maintaining these, especially when it comes to larger footfall, for example, and how you've ensured that people can use them and there's not sort of crowds and queuing for these sorts of things. Is that something you've sort of come across? Or?
Yeah, well, the bit of that I mentioned earlier with having a screen really helps with that, because then you don't have a single line queue for somebody to come up and use it specifically. You might still have some people waiting to do it, but they're not engaging. You know, they're still seeing something, and they're still, you know, maybe working with the person that's using it, you know, enticing them to say, hey, go look over there, go walk over there, there's something cool there. And that's something that we work with the museums too, about, you know, foot traffic, where that goes, the put through, and, you know, so you're not having a bottleneck, which usually isn't too bad. You know, usually you want to have it in an area that most people can see it anyway. So then even if you see maybe somebody is on it, then, oh, okay, I'm going to maybe do a loop and then come back, give it a few seconds and do it. Alan, do you want to?
Well, I think in terms of the maintenance and doing an exhibit, well, one of the things that we've done is spend quite a lot of time taking a commodity technology, which is used for games and interaction and will work in a workshop, and turning it into something that will work in a museum. So it's like minimum turning on, turning off, you know, automating that, minimum intervention, and so on. And that actually is the less exciting side of, but a really important side. And so we've worked really hard at that, and I think with some degree of success. With the footfall, I mean, we did make a VR exhibit for the Timespan Museum, where effectively you just walk up and you look through you look in, and you get an experience that would last anything from 10 seconds to a minute. You can look around, see a reconstruction of that place as it was in the past, and then move on. And that was very much designed with the idea of you know, liners coming in and parties of people on buses turning up, and you know, 50 or 100 people are needing to process them through in the period of an hour. So it's possible to do that. I think whenever designing these exhibits, you know, one of the first questions is, you know, how long is this experience supposed to last? And this is an important difference with computer games, because computer games take months, can take months, and then you can invest quite a lot of time in learning how to do it. But for a museum, it needs to be walk up and use, and a much shorter experience. As Catherine said, I mean, the North Uist one, it was in a big room and we had a big projection. You could choose from a series of things to do, watching videos and doing the exploration. One person was driving it on an Xbox controller, but you could have 30, and sometimes did have 30 or 40 people that were in there, essentially watching 2-minute videos, and then you've got nice exit points, so people can leave after 2 minutes, or they can stay for the next one. So I think that VR can be designed to handle high footfall and high throughput, but also it can be designed so that, you know, on the rainy Monday morning when there's nobody else in the museum, someone can spend 20 minutes, half an hour, or an hour kicking about on it. And you know, I think it is really important to think that through. You know, how long do we want somebody on this?
Well, and that informs the medium that it comes through, because, you know, like you're saying with having a large screen, you know, if you knew you're going to have lots of people, and like with Pix and Pixels, we had 2 different interaction points that were just the large projection and the Xbox, because that was we knew it was going to have very high numbers and throughput. And there was a VR part, but with the headset, but it was a little bit off to the side because we knew that was off the main, but it was still there. You could still see it, but you could go to it or watch it if you wanted to. And same with that in Tycursor. It's just, yeah, it should inform if you know you're going to have lots of people and all the time, then maybe, okay, do we really need a single headset, or is it something that we should do a full immersive something else? Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Thank you.
Mary, or was there someone else?
Mary? Mary, you want to
Well,
say
I have to, just a quick thing. Can you hear me though? In Tycursor, we put a certain number of chairs out so that enough people could sit, and then there's standing room as well. We found two things. The children who'd taken part in it tended to appear in the holidays and help the visitors because they were so entranced by how many people were coming in and out. And that was a spin-off we hadn't expected. The other thing we had was that you were able in St Andrews to remotely fix things that might have gone wrong. And that was very, very helpful. What?
What are you talking about? Nothing went wrong.
Go wrong, things go wrong. Yeah, no, we do. And so we try and rig things up. Yeah.
And you fix them. And I think that's a real plus for people. The other thing I might say is that you described the big room. We had a geology exhibition last year, rocks, stones, and we had a little console in the corner with two sets of headphones, and we replayed, people could sit at the little console in the museum in a small space and do it for themselves, or two people could do it. And it was almost constantly, while the volunteers were in and able to help with the Xbox, it was almost consistently used. But people waited, they went and had a coffee and came back. And some of the volunteers actually said, there's a queue, would you mind having 5 minutes more? And very tactfully would move people and give them shares.
That's a great description. It's good to hear that they, people would wait and go for a coffee, because that's exactly what you want to happen, isn't it? You want more trade in the cafe area as well as providing the engagement. Cool.
Like, we just don't teach them the whole thing. If I need them to move quite quickly through, I just teach them to use the remote to skip through scenes, so they are not spending too much time bumping into walls and trying to fly. And then if people have time, I will definitely go through the whole thing and tell them how much they can do. And by the way, Catherine, I got complaints about you can't fly up to the sky anymore and make you fall down. There have been complaints of this.
I think we finally put a dome on it. Just like, you can only go so far. Because then you gotta come back down.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, making you fall down. I'm not joking. Some of my younger visitors that have done this, they complain. It's like, why can I not fly anymore?
Well, maybe we'll get rid of the dome then.
Yeah,
no, don't.
Well, the Tomintoul one and Glenlivet one has a specific spot in one of the areas that it starts, I think, the open environment, and it's right in front of a cow. And that's, I think, pretty much everybody's favorite, is to go around the cow, all around the cow, through the cow, in the cow, around the cow. So I feel like so much work went into the accuracy of this historical archaeological excavation and rebuild, and we're stuck on the cow.
Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
It kind of builds on exactly what you said, and I don't know again if there's any research has been done into when the technology takes away from the message. And my experience of that with my own family was my boys going to the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park Visitor Centre, where they had some really interesting interactive exhibits. But all my little boys wanted to do was to zoom around and press buttons and see lights switch on and off. So the learning that the interpretation had been set up to deliver was lost by the technology. And I just wondered if, have we kind of moved on now because the technology is so much more widespread and people are used to it? Or is there still a wee bit of a thought that the technology takes away from the educational learning, if you like? You don't want people to come as visitors and get an encyclopedia to read, but there might be some evaluation of people coming into an exhibit and leaving, and what the learning that has taken place in an entertaining way has resulted in. I don't know, again, I'm appealing to all you people who maybe understand about reports on evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's true with kids, but I think it's true with generally is that people have a thing about exploring boundaries, you know, and so I think whatever you put out there, people are always going to try and, you know, see how far they can go, see how high they can go, see how deep they can go, and do those sorts of things. But I mean, even within that context, they're still in an environment, you know, which is spatially, you know, a cathedral or a reconstruction or something, so they get sort of some idea about it. But I mean, we try to find ways of directing people. So I mean, generally, rather than kind of like putting up barriers or, you know, erecting what do you call them, bars, you know, to keep people in the right place. The approach that we try to do is to make it really easy for people to get to the places where we want them to go to, and where there is the best information available. So that as I think Catherine mentioned it before, what we do is you can have free range exploration, so you can go wherever you want to go, right? But there are half a dozen or a dozen places where if you press a button, it will take you to one, and then it will take you to the next, and then it will take you to the next. So there's a structured tour that people can very easily follow, and then we give information on that tour. Nobody's compelled to do it, but we make it as easy as possible for them to do it. And I think that that's kind of a sort of a fairly effective strategy for doing that. And of course, you can then build in like task orientated things, so like a treasure trail or something like that. That's another way of giving people direction. You know, they have to find where certain objects are or where certain things are, and then you follow this trail, and then at the end of the trail you get some reward. And actually that can work quite well as a mixed reality thing. So it can be, you know, you need to find the golden bunnies in the museum, and you need to find the golden bunnies in the exhibit as well, or some other thing. So I think that there's ways of kind of giving people some sort of direction, or helping them focus.
And it's understanding too that there are different kinds of learners in reality, and the same with virtual reality. So if you have somebody, because I don't see it as an age thing so often with the open exploration, because I have had lots of people of all ages go in and know that maybe there's something that they're supposed to do, but then they've seen something that, can I go over there? Yeah, you can go over there. Let them go explore, and then like Alan said, kind of guide them back to that, hey, this is, you know, what you're exploring, this is what it's about, and getting them back into that. And sometimes, I mean, that's their, as opposed to being like, no, this is the only thing that you're going to learn. And there's a few of the installs that have different menu like different kinds of interaction. So it's not just the one type of tour. It's maybe just a straight, tour of videos, or it's a photosphere tour that they can't go open, explore, and they can go through those different things as well. Or if that's all you want, and that's all that, oh, okay, we just want them to read the text and see if an image or a 360 image, then that can be something as well. But I think it's, that you might still have some open explore, but then you come back and kind of like, you get something out of it. Everybody's going to get something different anyway. Sure, Mary.
So I say, part of the question was about evaluation. And as we always have to evaluate for our funding, we have different ways of doing that. One is the visitor's book, which our volunteers kind of encourage people as much as possible. So we get a range of comments on the installation, and it's very clear from the kind of stay and from the comments which bits people have enjoyed of those installations. And that's a kind of layer of evaluation that is very useful to us. Our volunteers also keep a day book, and it's not a kind of police thing or a surveillance thing, but they do jot down in the day book that the Australian or the German visitors spent an hour on the installation. The Chinese woman spent 2 hours on the installation and visited every single area. So we get some quite concrete evidence that we can use in our evaluations for funding.
Yep, Vanessa, do you have something?
Hi, yeah, I'm from the West Highlands Museum in Fort William. We've toyed with the idea of putting a virtual reality of the old fort at Fort William in our governor's room, which we decided it would ruin the ambience of it, so we were going to put something online. We do have like a walkthrough video tour, but it's like 15 years old, and it basically looks like Lego in comparison to the sort of the things we've been seeing today. So I was just wondering what sort of opportunities there are for sort of funding and partnerships to be able to get something off the ground that we would be useful for us to use at the museum and on our website.
We would be, sorry, Mary?
No, I was just going to say funding is the problem. As someone who spends hours and hours on it, possibly the whole of the last 3 weeks, apart from these webinars. And at the moment, the digital funding is for equipment rather than for where I think it needs to be placed, which is in developing liaisons with St Andrews or equivalent people who make platforms, because that's the area that I'm really searching for at the moment. And I'd welcome any advice on that. I'm just saying.
Well, I think you were seeing some turnaround, Alan, with some things being, people realizing that having things available and accessible online right now would probably be a good idea to fund, just with the current situation.
I mean, we'll make you a thought, Vanessa, and work out how to get the money. No problem. Love to do that. We could look for money from Scottish Funding Council as a possibility through Interface, but I think that we were thinking about like organising something bigger about funding and stuff like that. But maybe Nicola, have you got something to say about?
Yeah, we were looking to do a session bringing in Interface because they work through their knowledge transfer partnerships as well. So there's some funding in those routes, and also with HLF and HES, who are thinking about how they can fund digital innovation, and HIE have their innovation fund as well, and MGS, well, they've just got the equipment grant at the moment, and I think that either just closed or just about to close. I think they are, from speaking to Joe there, they are thinking about future ways to support some more sort of innovative ideas and helping to make those happen. So there are strands beginning to open up, and there are places like Interface and HLF that do have some money out there as well. Yeah. And yeah, we are looking to do a session probably into July now around that, where we'll hopefully have the agencies there to kind of speak and give a bit more guidance on that.
But yeah, that's great. From a university perspective, we can Cupido is a project that we're involved with, which gives us some funds for doing heritage work, and I think that also we're looking to put in application to Scottish Funding Council through Interface for some similar sort of work. So I think, and also we have students who do projects and stuff like that. So one way or another, if you were to come to us and say, could we make a reconstruction, updated reconstruction of a fort, I'm sure we would find a way of doing that.
Oh, fantastic! That would be great.
Unless you know, obviously, yeah. Elsa.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple of points. First of all, I wanted to say to Mary, can you not hear me, bugger?
This is breaking up a lot.
Maybe try switching your video off and leaving the audio on.
Sorry, I've got really. Okay. Is that better?
It is.
My internet's just rubbish. Yeah, no. Mary, are you called Mary or Mary?
Mary here.
Never mind. Thank you. Mary, I just wanted to say how inspirational the stuff about your work was, Mary. It's amazing what you've done. It made me feel, I don't know, I work for an organisation, the Isle Martin Trust, and I've only been with them for a year. But it just puts us to shame, you know, all that work that you've done. I don't know what the time span of it, how long did it, the different things that you've talked about, how long has that spanned over?
We've worked with St Andrews since 2013, and we've done 1, 2, 3, 5 different projects. 2 were slightly linked. We had a World War I exhibition, and they did a poppy map of the island. So townships, you could press on the township and see the people who died on the war memorial, and then some of the oral interviews. I have to say that I'll explain that my father was from here, and my mother's family from Islay and Tiree, but I grew up in England, and so it's really been a privilege to kind of be accepted within the island, you know, because I've retired here, but I've been up every summer since I was wee. And so I think I know a lot of the families, and a lot of the families already on this small island know my family. And I think that's made a huge difference in terms of the willingness of the tradition bearers to give oral interviews. The intergenerational thing is very strong, and the will to help the young, the number of really intelligent teachers the island has grown. So I can't claim any credit really. I can just claim the strength of the community and its networks, the very rich culture of music, language. I'm retrieving my Gaelic from childhood, but it's not as strong as I'd like. So I think it's just something that the island has done, really. And Alan, I'm sure, and Ian will bear that out, and Catherine, from their visits.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a fantastic place to work, actually.
Just think it is a real skill to create something. Sorry, I'm obviously breaking up.
I think in terms of skill, the skills are those of making it very multimedia, having quite a few teachers involved and the schools involved, and very willing to support everything. The focus on the children and the older knowledge bearers. The baths that St Andrews provides, the kind of views, we have liftoff whenever they're on the island. And I think it's...
Well, it was always like that, Mary.
I think it's the planning, the very careful planning of how to use the media, use the technology with what's available already, and it's the planning.
Thank you. I just also wanted to ask, I don't know if you can actually hear me because I can't hear you very well, but I just wanted to ask if people have used drones in amongst all of this.
We do a lot.
Well, yes, we have, and they're useful.
Yeah, whether for like just straight filming, like lovely filming of locations from the air, or also you can use them for survey to help with land survey for the area that maybe you're looking to reconstruct or know a little bit more about. Yeah, they're definitely an instrument that we use, a tool that we use.
Yeah, but I mean, increasingly we're finding that people have you know, the museums have access to drones. There's often somebody local or nearby who's done that sort of thing. But,
Is there anybody else with any questions?
Sorry, are you waiting for me to speak?
Oh no, well, I didn't know if you had more to say on that.
Given up. Don't worry, you carry on. I'll just listen.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. I think that's us for this evening. Then that's been great today. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Be sure to join us next Thursday, which is in 2 days' time, for our session on Creative Commons and Wikipedia, which will continue our sessions onward. And also as well, no, after you.
That should be fun. I'm really looking forward to that. I think the Wikipedia thing is just so important, and one of the reasons why it's so important is because it's so closely tied up with Google. That, you know, if anybody who does a Google search, the first response they'll get will be Wikipedia, and you can write what it is that they're going to see from that research in Wikipedia. So we're going to look at that. The other thing that I wanted to say is that as part of this set of workshops, we want to really make some heritage output from it. And what I was thinking of doing was creating a map with organizations or people that have participated in the workshops, so that everybody gets on that map and we can put it online and connect it up. So it would be great if you'd have a think about whether you'd like to participate in that, and I'd encourage you to so do. And if you do, then what sort of bit of digital heritage or digital media would you like uploaded for your place? That would be great. And then we could maybe make a map lots of people on it to kind of have as a sort of legacy from the workshops and the participation in the workshops. Catherine's made a start.
Yes, I have made a start, but it'd be great to have more as well, especially for the next one. So if you're on the group, I think there was a post started already that, or there is, with locations, if you want to say your location and your organization, perhaps. So, and then, yeah, adding anything else to it. We can expand on that a bit.
And there are also the surveys for each one as well.
Yes, please.
Which are part of the Expo North event posts, as well as the events on Facebook as well.
And I'll be putting another link on through the Facebook group, and also probably under the comments maybe of this video on Facebook, everywhere it is. So, but please, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much for everyone who's already done that, but also anybody else who hasn't, please, if you were in this group, go ahead and complete this group survey.
I seem to have a problem, Catherine, doing a second one. I did it, I don't know, last week maybe, and then I tried to go back to do the one for the first workshop, and it said you've already completed this.
Yeah, it might have an issue with that. I'll have a look. I'll look at the Qualitrix and see. Oh, Mary's got dinner.
My pizza delivery.
Oh, lovely. Lucky you.
Literally. In the house.
I'm starving now.
Island living for you.
I am so hungry. Okay. Right. Thanks everybody for coming. And Vanessa, if you got my email, drop me a. All of you.
I'll put you both in touch. I'll put you both in touch.
Thanks, Nicola. No, that would be fantastic. Yeah, because we were really keen to get this off the ground, but just looking at the technology today, honestly, it looks really basic. And we're not even sure how to get it onto the internet either. So.
Oh well, you know, it'd be great to have a look at what you've got, and it'd be great to have a look at what you got, and it'd be great to. If you really want a reconstruction of a fort, I think that would be a great thing to do. Yeah, no, that would be amazing. Yeah, because we've got the actual governor's office from the old fort as part of the museum, so that's another reason why we wanted to do it. So. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks, Nicola.
Thanks a lot, Nicola. Okay, bye.